Is today? Oh, today's Monday. That's why. Yeah, all the days just blur by now. Now my weekends are a little bit different. So
Yeah. You must be pretty tired too, huh?
what I'm learning is Mondays I usually take a big nap. Like today I slept 4 hours in the day.
Oh, I didn't
Like
really. Okay.
in the middle of the day, I took a really big nap, and now I feel good.
Mm,
Usually if there's a lot of orders and things like that, usually on like the weekdays or like leading up to the weekend, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, even Thursday, Wednesday and Thursday, I'm using a lot
mm,
of my energy at work. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is usually spent for the keep up business. And then Monday, I'm learning I'm going to use to sleep a little bit.
mm, mm. Makes sense. I mean, I think it's really important you're able to sustain a schedule rather than just like burn out. So,
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
wow.
I will say we did have like a social media meeting today
Mm,
uh, to see what we need to get done,
mm.
but yeah.
Well, like, or do you guys kind of operate remotely through Zoom often, or are you just come
Uh,
to your place type of thing?
Everybody, usually when we have a lot of filming to do, everybody comes to my place and that's where we do stuff. But I will say, like today, we did it on Zoom just because there's no need for everyone to be here.
Mm,
But yeah, I will say a lot of like, because a lot of the meetings are action based, like here's what we have to do. And a
mm,
lot of them are filming based, like we'll have to actually meet and do the
mm.
filming.
How does the kind of I guess vibe feel when I mean I'm guessing your friends also have day jobs that they go to and then they're hopping on afterwards. So how does it feel? Are they like pretty energized still? Are they excited to work? What do you see in the
Yeah. They're close friends, and obviously they're helping us, and so we don't lose sight of that, and we're
Mhm,
always very grateful. I will say it is immensely helpful. Like we
mhm,
cannot do. I mean, I'm sure we could, but is everything just moves slower, and like there's a lot of ideas that are generated by our friends, and like just overall, I think it's better when you have a lot more people that are helping you and willing to help you, and they're bought into the idea. They've tasted our food before, they like where it's going. Everything's still good. I mean, we have still yet to launch. We're going to launch in the next couple weeks, and so it's coming up soon. So like we're doing, we are preparing all of our videos and things like that. But um, yeah, I mean, it's good. I think a lot of this is also like we are very aware of the fact that like nothing's going to be perfect the first time around. So it's just really we will prepare to the extent possible, and we'll obviously try our best to make it good. But after a certain point, it's just like we just have to start doing it and figuring things out and like seeing what works and what doesn't.
mhm.
And so I think we are ready to go. We have a clear line of sight to where we want to go. We just have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Makes sense. Wow. And I mean, I remember you mentioning about your photography friend you recently kind of
Yeah.
recruited. How's that
Yeah.
working out?
Yeah, and actually give me 1 second. I need to respond to someone. Um, sorry, what was the question?
Yeah. So recently you mentioned about your photography friend
Oh yeah.
that you tried recruiting.
Yeah, that was great. We already took pictures indoors of our food. We have some photos that we can now use. We're gonna overlay that with a cool, with like a bold colored background, and then
Hmm.
add in some like little descriptors of what is in our kimbap. Um, but yeah, it's really good. I mean, I the photos turned out great. We're gonna do another one. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't that great, and so I think we're gonna do another one next week when the weather is actually nicer outside, and we want to go outside and take pictures
Oh.
of it.
Mm.
So um, we're gonna do that, and things for that I think are pretty good. Um, Photos have turned out well. We're still filming a lot of stuff. We have a lot of ideas of what we want to do. But yeah, everything takes time, and you know, we got to make sure you pace well enough for everyone to feel good. But I will also say because everyone besides me has a full-time job, like a corporate job, and so they are making time outside of their day to help us with it.
Yeah. So and currently then, what's the percentage breakdown for marketing versus rest of the things?
Oh, right now, honestly, like Jimmy and I, like the other co-founder and I, are spending a lot of our time doing recipe testing and things like that. Obviously, we've made a lot. Like this past week, we actually made quite a bit. Like on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we made it 3 days in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, partially for like an order, but also partially for like photos and things like that. So we've had to remake it. I would say all of the time besides that right now is spent on marketing on the social media thing because I like for us the social media and like the branding and the advertising is huge because I think that's like half the battle, right? Like food is obviously really important once you get people in the door, but we have to be able to get people in the door. And so we also want to make sure that like our proof of concept actually works and that people are willing to buy this. And like we
Mm,
just don't know enough. Like we don't know we don't know anything really. So we're just trying to figure things out on the fly. We are taking a best guess at like what feels reasonable and what feels
mm,
logical.
yeah.
But obviously there's been, I mean, already just with the recipes alone, we've had a lot of iterations and trying to figure stuff out on the fly, and that will likely continue.
Mm. Do you guys have like a set current marketing strategy for your opening, or are you able to share that?
Yeah, I mean, we are likely going to do a pre-order, like a big pre-order
Mm,
in sometime in June. And so I think we're going to build up towards that. And it's probably going to be like an all weekend thing. So like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll do it. And we'll likely do, I don't know, our capacity is always limited because we make stuff at home. All of this is pending us getting like our cottage food license, which just essentially means that we can sell food that we've made at home.
oh.
Because right now we're not willing to invest into like a full kitchen or like a ghost kitchen yet until we figured out if enough people are willing to buy, which I know right now is going to be small scale anyway, but we just want to see what the traction is. What is the demand? Is there something here that we can build off of?
Mhm,
If not, then like we'll have to move away from it. And like I think it'll just be a judgment call.
mm,
Uh, but we will likely do something like that in June, and so all the social media is going to gear up towards that.
mm,
And then maybe there's a world in which we do like a recurring thing monthly of like, like this is our free first big pre-order. And then in July, we'll do the same thing. And then maybe in
mm,
August, do the same thing. I'm not really sure. But at a certain point, we will obviously commit and we will look for a location in downtown
mm,
and just make it work that way. But I think the marketing piece has to be huge. And a big part of that, I think, is just me and Jimmy and like just bringing ourselves to the camera and just showing people that I obviously have a background in consulting. Jimmy also has a background in finance and sort of the wealth management space, and it's obviously very different. But like we're also pretty young, and we're hoping a lot of people will resonate and hopefully come out and support.
mm, mm. Okay, I see. So from my understanding, I guess you're really trying to build off of the story that you're trying to convey and then introduce them to support this kind of uh K-pop business and I guess the community that supports the idea that you guys are trying to share.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think the whole marketing strategy, I guess if we have one, we never really call it a strategy. We're just like, I think we're gonna do this. But no, we think there's a market out there for people that want good kimbap. Like I think kimbap is popular enough where people now know about it, especially within the Asian communities. And
Mm,
so we just want to give a place where people can actually get good kimbap. So that's sort of outside of all the marketing, right? It's like just we think there's demand here. We think there is a market here. We just need to execute correctly to be able to capture that.
mm,
And then the second piece is like what makes us a little bit more unique, right? Because from a business fundamentals perspective, you have to have some sort of competitive edge, like what makes you a little bit different. And honestly, kimbap as a food item is really hard to compete on, and unless
mm,
it's not like a Michelin starred restaurant, right? Where the quality of the dish, the ingredients are so pristine that you really can isolate that. No, kimbap is like you just stuff a bunch of stuff in seaweed and like it's very close to sushi, right? Like in reality, that's the perception that it's going to have.
yeah.
And so the marketing and the branding has to be really clear that this is something called kimbap and it's different from sushi. The origins are probably the same. I think if I've done a little research, but it's likely all from the same place anyway. But I think it's close enough where like people should hopefully recognize it and kimbap itself will get enough traction. Um, for us to move and we'll have a competitive advantage
Mm,
from the product itself. Like we want it to taste good and we want it not to be easily replicatable.
mm,
But because the food itself is not like groundbreaking, that means that from a branding perspective, we have to be a little bit more unique.
mm,
I think the way to do that is just attach ourselves to it.
mhm. Let me throw an idea out there, and just to kind of push you to thinking also to share your thoughts on why you made that decision. I'm just curious. I mean, some people, if they want to test their demand of their product, they go straight into it. And I know you've been kind of more preparing for the story. And when that story is kind of well created, that's when you want to kind of test your product to the market. Just curious why you didn't decide on just like getting out there and then building the story as it goes.
We will have to do that as well, right? I think there's definitely a part of this where we will have to start figuring things out, and the story will get a lot more exciting once we actually start building, right? Because right now we're in the preparation phases. I will say we've done some testing of the food to like our close friends and the people around us, and the reactions have been good. We've also been getting feedback, and so we've been implementing the feedback. There's two trains of thought for me in particular. But like at the base level, like the quality of the food has to be really good. Like I'm very particular about that. Like if the food isn't good, like to me, I don't want to sell it, right? So for me, that is the biggest priority, and that's where all of essentially the past 3 or 4 months, that's where me and Jimmy have been putting our most of our time in. At this point, and like there's two trains of thought, right? Like you said, you either dive in head first and you figure it out as you go, and then
Yeah.
there's also sort of the preparation phase. We're gonna have to do the latter. Like we have to, or like sorry, we're gonna have to do the former where we dive in and we figure it out anyway. But I think for us, it's like we want to go to market with at least a good enough product that we are comfortable with, and then once we get feedback from the masses, then like we'll implement that feedback and move along. But like because of my fundamental belief that the product has to be really good, like it takes time, and like it took a little more time than
Mm,
anticipated.
mm,
I'm still not quite satisfied with where we're at, but I think we are close enough where we can actually start selling and actually getting more feedback. Because I think the reputation piece and the branding piece is really big at the beginning. Like we have to have something good at the beginning. Otherwise, you can't start off with something that's terrible and then expect people to rebuy and rebuy it, right? And expecting different results. We want it to be good, and then we'll try to make it great as we continue on.
mm.
So let me
Uh,
take that back. We want it to be great, and then we'll make it even greater as we go on.
mm. I really agree with some of the ideas there. I think as a person, as a human being myself, I think my natural inclination is to kind of have a really good product first and then introduce it out there and then test it as we go. I recently listened to this interview by this guy and uh, his basic philosophy was that, okay, if I have $10 million, rather than investing like five into a project and then, ending up not working out, I'm rather going to do 10 $1 million project. And if, there's going to iterate reiterations there, there's going to be pivots. I'm going to realize there's not enough demand. But rather take that approach where it's smaller, more shorter sprints and faster testing of demand, since that is really ultimately how you sustain business in the long term. What do you think about that? And does it apply to your industry?
I think that makes a ton of sense. I mean, I would argue like we think our hypothesis is that this will work, right? We
Mm,
think there's a market out there. In reality, nobody knows. And there are markets that come out of nowhere like that. You like nobody knows until you try it. And you
mhm,
have to try it well, and like you have to do it, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I guess what's underlying in that idea of doing ten different projects is you don't need a perfect product to get started. You just need something that's good enough to get it out there, and then you
yeah.
can see if people want it, and then you can iterate on it and sort of hone in on the good points.
Hmm.
I think it makes a ton of sense. I will say from our perspective, it's a little bit hard to do like 10 different things, right? Like just from the perspective of I'd love to do 10 different concepts and like have that, sort of be able to test that. Honestly, I think there's just a lot of capacity constraints, and like because I'm putting so much time on making this one product good enough for, at least in my opinion, to be able to sell, and for us to have a good baseline to go off of.
Hmm.
It's also granted it's only been a month since I've quit my corporate job, and so we'll take give myself a little bit of grace there, but I think if this doesn't pan out the way exactly that we had imagined, I don't exactly know how we're going to completely move away. I think we will try to stay somewhat in the kimbap space. I think because there's so much versatility in the actual food product itself, we will hopefully stay within it. Like, I think what's nice about the restaurant industry is that most oftentimes there's always competition, but people always have to eat, and like you
Mm,
just have to win over some of those customers. You know, it's not like you get one customer and another place loses it forever, right? It's like if you eat at one place one day, you're probably going to go to a different place the next
yeah.
day. So it's not competition in the sense of like I'm stealing your customers. It feels a little bit different. And we're hoping the Korean food scene in Chicago is at least coming up and is like on the rise. And so people have paid enough attention to it where like if we do this and we launch correctly and if we do things right, then I think we can pick up enough traction. And then once we get enough traction, once we get enough people in the door and they taste our food, then they're like, okay, this is good.
Mm,
And then all the other business things that actually matter will come into play, right? Like we don't even have, I think, enough things. Like we don't right now. Our attention is on the product and then on the marketing. Like that's it.
mm,
I think later down the line, what's realistically going to have to we're going to have to worry about is how do we scale, right? How do
mm,
you do supply chain? Like how do you do operations?
mm,
All of that for us is next down the line. So like to your point about like like for us, we're investing our that $1 million for us is into that product and the marketing, and then we'll get it to the market.
mm,
After that will be, all the other stuff that probably matters and how you actually sustain a business.
mm. Yeah, makes sense. And there's definitely differences in different industries as well. So just curious, we thought
Yeah.
of that as you kind of approach your launch in a couple of
I think
weeks.
but I would say it feels like to me everything is fundamentally the same in business, right? Like have a good product, like have enough, make sure you get enough good marketing and advertising, right? Like at the base root of it all, and this is the same thing with startups, at least from what I've heard, you just have to have a good enough product and you have to believe in your product. You
Mhm,
can't give up. Like resilience is key, but you
mhm,
can't also just there's a fine line between not giving up on something, but also realizing when things need to pivot and like you need to move away from certain things and like
mm.
actually find out what the market wants.
Yeah,
If there's no demand, you have no business. Like that's it. And so all the other little details are important, but I think if you ignore the fundamentals and if you move away from that too fast, then you will not be successful in the long term.
yeah. Since you mentioned about the trend in Chicago and maybe consumer taste or preferences in different cuisines, well, how's the Korean food scene like right now, and what do you see in the future?
Yeah, it's a good question. To be honest with you, I am not a full well, I guess, I mean, I've lived here a while, and like, I would think that I would know most of the places around here, which I do. And like, you hear from word of mouth, and like, when a new restaurant opens, it spreads pretty quickly.
Hmm.
There's a new restaurant that opened called Mr. Tiger. I worked there as a server, and it's been busy. It's been getting busier and busier every single week. Like the demand
Mm.
has been picking up every single week. And this is like it's pretty like it's authentic Korean food. It's not fusion. They don't mess with it in any like way. But like the demand is there. Like people are really liking the food. Some of the people are coming back for more. The demand, like we're basically I guess sold out is not the word, but all of our reservations are taken
Oh, full booked.
every single night, Wednesday through Saturday. And
Wow.
it's getting busier and busier every single week. So that to me is a testament that there is a market out here, that people do know what Korean food is. If you can do it right and people are willing to eat it.
Hmm.
I think kimbap is a little bit different because it's not as well known as just Korean food, I would say. And we're betting on the fact that it's going to be for a different occasion, right? Like because Korean food at Mr. Tiger is full service. It's a little bit more on the upscale side. It's usually for dinners, but we want to do lunch and we want to make it a very operations heavy, just like you grab it and go. It's super convenient. It's relatively cheap, relatively, and it's very accessible. That's from a business perspective, I think that's what we're going after.
Wow. And tell me more about Mr. Tiger. What are the customers like? Is there a specific demographic? What are the
Yeah,
occasions usually that they're coming in for?
yeah, I would say first of all, Mr. Tiger's great. The owners have been nothing but supportive and nice to me, and they've been incredible. And the business is growing and getting better, and they're also on their end, I think, learning a lot on how to run a business. And but it's been fun to be a part of that process. I would say the demographic is largely Caucasian, so it's
Mhm.
non-Asian.
Interesting.
I would generally say there are some Asians that come in. I would say Koreans are pretty rare, I think, for two reasons. One, it is a little bit more on the upscale side. So while it is Korean comfort food, it's like Koreans are, I think, not necessarily the demographic that they're going after anyway. Um, And Asians in general, there's a good amount, but it's not, it's I would say it's largely non-Asian people that come in. Um, and yeah, they've been very successful so far. And like it's been again, like it's only been a few months since they've opened, but they are, they've been featured on all the like popular food eateries and they're really going off and they're doing things well.
Wow. It's interesting. So you're saying that it's more of an upscale restaurants, mostly at least till now, more mostly Caucasians who are coming in to enjoy this experience. I guess, do you think it also correlates with like foreigners who are much more less accustomed to this type of cuisine, so they're willing to pay that price compared to maybe Koreans who are like, you know what, I could get that by like half the price maybe at somewhere else or something like that. Do you think that has an effect on the customer base?
I'm sure it does. I honestly, this is a good point because I mean, Jimmy and I were talking about this other day, and we were doing some thinking about like who the actual target demographic is for us.
Mm,
Originally, I was like, it's going to be Koreans, right? Because I would like to think that I'm Korean and I have a Korean background and things like that. But the
mm,
more that I thought about it, um, I think we are actually, in reality, like while I am Korean, I'm very Korean American, right? I'm not just Korean, and that just and because I came here when I was 7, right? So I think that's just naturally the kind of person that I am, and so I'm trying to target people like me and Jimmy, who Jimmy and I are very similar in that regard, and I think you are too. But that means that we're essentially targeting Asian Americans. It's not even just Koreans. It's
yeah.
it's Asian Americans and it's Korean Americans. It's not Korean Koreans.
Mm,
At the end of the day, we're not going to be able to replicate what food like is like in Korea. Like it's just going to be really hard, and it's just not that's not how business works, right? Like the market is different. I think fundamentally the market here is very different. And so this also was a very recent realization for us. And so I think we've changed things a little bit where we're going to be trying to target the Asian American like sort of the community here.
mm,
And by nature, I think that means that it's going to include other sort of demographics as well.
mm,
But I think that's where we want to start, and we want to make sure that we are true to that, and like that's the niche that we want to start with.
mm. Interesting. Super cool. Do you feel that, I mean, you mentioned that Mr. Tiger, in your perspective, is close to the taste that you could find more authentic. Do you think are the demographics of the customers who are coming in, are they enjoying the taste? Do you feel like they're understanding and
Oh, they
does their
love.
expectations align?
Yeah, I mean they love it.
Mm.
I think what's nice is people that are not accustomed to what. First off, Korean food is delicious. Like it's my favorite food in the world. Like you can't like I there's nothing like I am so that it's so, I love it so much for me personally. And it's good. It's delicious. Like people when they come in, they love the food. And like the foods that we've Mr. Tiger has is just really it's good food. Like and it's like sort of the more I think foods that people here are accustomed to, like in the sense of people have seen bulgogi, they've seen like spicy pork, like they know what that is. They obviously know dumplings and things like that that are on the menu.
Mm.
Um, so people love it. Like they are very big fans, and all the food review like I don't know what they call them, like food review places have given them very positive feedback and ratings.
Yeah. Wow. That's super cool. Yeah, recent thing that happened in LA recently is do you know a restaurant called 옥동식 in New York?
I do not.
Well, it's actually pretty, I think it's pretty famous in New York. It's like this soup with, I want to say pop, like
Hmm.
rice. I want to
Hmm.
say, I think it's some type of kukbap.
Hmm.
I forget, but basically their original spot is in New York and they're currently doing this pop-up in LA. And I thought it was, pretty courageous of them to come to LA since there's a lot of good spots here and
Yeah.
yeah, I just thought that was really interesting and yeah, it's interesting how
Yeah.
those movements are happening too.
I think it's going to be you asked about what it's going to look like in the future. I think there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of potential in the future for Korean food just in general. And then that might morph into something that's not always completely traditional, and that's okay. I think food is food and flavor is flavor, and it doesn't always have to be super authentic, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever is good is good. I want to stay, at least for us, right? I want to stay true to what we, are going after. But like pop-ups and things like that, I mean, that's so much fun. I think there's a lot of people that are passionate about food just in general in life, in the world.
Yeah.
And Korean food just happens to be the cuisine that I'm infatuated with. But there's a lot of talented people out there and a lot of great ideas.
This is a random thought I just had since we were just talking about New York. I was like, hey, New York, they have a huge, food truck culture. Is there like some type of culture like that in Chicago as well, where it's like food vendors that are, um, opening up, not just like storefront, like brick, what is it called? Brick in the wall in the, whatever those things called, but
Yeah.
not just like stores fronts, but trucks or just trolleys or whatever those are. Is there a big presence of that in Chicago?
There could be. I don't personally know. I
Mm,
don't, maybe I should know, but well, I will say I haven't seen it that much. There
mm,
are obviously are food trucks.
yeah,
I just haven't seen them as I would say they aren't as prevalent, I think, in New York as New York. Like New York has a lot of street food, it's just
yeah,
like it have vendors and places like that. But like
yeah,
here, you don't really see that. I don't know if that's just the city of Chicago that doesn't really like that.
yeah.
But like, if you go down the streets, you're not really gonna find it. Like sometimes you find one or two food trucks in the entire of downtown. There's also some that are closer to Millennium Park
Mm.
that have like the street
Oh
that
yeah,
are in. But
yeah.
like besides that, I don't actually know if they're allowed to be in the loop inside downtown Chicago. And so I just personally haven't really seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I watched this documentary or like some interview on this guy who was a Korean national. I think he just literally just came to the States to like do his restaurant business, and it was basically cup up
Yeah.
and in his truck, and I just kind of suddenly thought of
I
that.
actually I know the not the founder but the president or like I think he's a COO of Cup Pop. They went on Shark Tank. They're like
Yeah, that guy. Yeah,
I did a cold reach. I just like reached out to him on LinkedIn about last sometime last year when I was looking for an externship when I was in consulting.
yeah.
And we connected. And I actually recently connected with him again when I quit my corporate job. And
Oh,
again, he's fantastic. I mean, he also the COO. I forget what his actual title is, but I mean, he's just like basically the partner to the founder.
yeah,
But he also has a very similar background of being in corporate. He was very successful in corporate from what I know, and then he pivoted off
yeah.
and did this. And we've had some really good discussions about what that's like. And he's also been nothing but supportive, and he's always said if I need anything to reach out. So
Wow.
uh, so amazing, yeah, just an amazing.
Yeah, I super cool. I remember that it's been a while, but the interview, the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I have this really smart friend of mine who's like the genius behind all things," and then he's the guy who's just kind of like out there, just doing the pitch, hyping people up. So I remember that. Oh yeah, I mean, it's something I just suddenly thought of while we were just talking about trucks and then Korean food.
It's funny because I mean I had the exact same some when I was doing all this thinking back last year. I also had a few friends that mentioned them to me, and so I just reached out and thankfully he graciously accepted and we've chatted a few times and
hmm
it's great when I get this thing up and running. I'll be sure to give continually to reach out and give them updates and things like that. But
hmm
yeah, the whole point is to grow and scale like they did and hopefully expand Korean food in the Midwest.
Wow, no, that's yeah, some exciting stuff. Huh. So like I guess leading up to the launch, what month is that are you expecting?
So I think we're going to do late June, sometime late June, where we'll do our social media launch sometime in May. And then we'll post pretty regularly for about a month and a half. And then I think late June is when we're thinking of doing the
Ooh.
actual.
I mean, it doesn't have to be, but is there a specific reason for that? Just meet the timeline for you?
Yeah, it's sort of like an artificial timeline. The idea, if we had to work backwards, is we want to do when we find an actual brick and mortar like a storefront, we want to do construction during the winter so that we can open up in like March or April timeline. Because the
Ooh.
seasonality here, the weather is everything is weather dependent, right? Like when the weather gets nicer, a lot of people come here, tourists come here, all the people of Chicago actually get outside their
Get
house.
outside. Yeah.
And so the goal for us working backwards is we want to find a place by like September or October at the latest, and then do construction for about 6 or 7 months probably. And that means
Oh,
if we want to open next year in March and April, if I work backwards, that means September, October is when we have to find our location, sign the lease, and start construction. That means that we need to get enough demand in the summer months of this year to figure out if this is actually doable or not. And if not, then we need to figure out something else, right? So
Wow.
that means we ideally need to start as fast as possible to make it in time for our summer season, which that means that if we can start in June, I think that's probably ideal.
Wow. That's super cool. I mean, I wasn't aware. Well, it's super exciting that you're kind of planning also in the future to have a physical location. Um,
Yeah.
how are you planning to kind of finance that? Is that coming from pure revenue generation, or are you getting
It's revenue
uh,
generation, no, because we're not making anywhere near enough or profit or whatever those. We're not doing anything where we can do that. I think a lot of it's going to be could just come from personal savings from Jimmy and I, and then once we run it,
Wow.
we will probably just take on a loan from the bank.
Wow.
Assuming
Wow.
that they give us one. If they don't give us one, then we'll have to figure out another way to finance. So we'll have to stay tuned. But the problem and the big issue right now that we're facing is we just have no leverage. We have nothing to go off of. Like there's no reason why anybody would choose to invest in us. There's no reason why a bank would lend us money. We have no leverage. I think the easiest way, and not easiest, I shouldn't say easy, the simplest way and the most accessible way for us to gain leverage is by marketing, is by finding demand, is doing a proof of concept, seeing that there's actually demand. Like if we can prove that to people, and if people can support us and buy into the idea of what we're doing, and there is actually a market for kimbap, then that gives us leverage to say, hey, like we know this is going to work. We've done this before. Here's the numbers to back it up.
No.
We need cash.
No. Definitely. Wow.
And that primarily for us means social media because that's just the most accessible way of doing it. And nowadays, if you have a business and you're not really utilizing social media to its fullest extent, then I think you're missing out.
Wow. No, I'm now just super excited. When that first video rolls out with you, trying to introduce your story to the world.
It's hard. I will say I'm not like I don't really use social media very often for my personal life. Like I'm not very accustomed to using it. And so I've always told my friends that like if you ever see my face on a public video that I'm just like releasing in the hopes of actually getting not like famous, but like, gain track. I guess getting famous is the right term, but like that's like gonna be a big step in my life because I'm not very comfortable with that, and I'm still not that comfortable with it. But I am like, if I want to run a business and this is what I say I want to do, then like if I'm not willing to take that kind of risk, then like there's like, am I really fit to be able to do this? I don't think so. So I will try. We'll try.
Wow. So from my understanding, it's going to be a series of videos documenting kind of the backstory of how it started. You're going to be posting regularly of your foods so people get an idea of what their kind of what the selections are or what they're getting into with their food. Is that kind of
Exactly right. So it'll be like an introduction of us, right, and what we're trying to do. Then it'll be about the food. It'll be, like why do we choose kimbap? Like what does our product look like? What does our day in the life look like? What does it look, we're planning a bunch of like just pretty typical, like here's what we're doing, here's how things have looked. So like we're trying to tackle a couple things at once, which that's just what we want to do is we want to document the process, right? We want to document the story. And as a part of that, hopefully people will see it and be like, oh, I want to try it too.
wow, super cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just can't wait. I just can't wait. I think the
Yeah.
the real fun and when I guess you start to feel some two-way interaction is when that
Yeah,
video
I
is out,
agree.
right?
I will say right now, everything it's like a double-edged sword because like a part of me, everything's still safe and secure. Like nothing has gone wrong, right? Like nothing has happened. Like we haven't actually done anything. And so a part of me is it feels good because I think the path is right and like we're trying. A part of me is also very, very nervous, right? Because we haven't actually done anything. So like we think it's gonna work. We like the product that we have. We like the marketing that we have. We think it'll work. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
But the reality is once it hits the ground, then we'll see if it works or not. I think that does give me a lot of makes me anxious a little bit. And so um, we'll just have to do it and see. But we're prepping as best as we can. I think preparation is key for us, and so we are preparing a lot in the background, and hopefully that shows up and people can resonate with the story.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I
Thanks.
mean, must have been a busy week as well this week, but yeah, we'll get some new updates as how it goes next week as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. Next week, and then the week after, actually on probably in the Monday, we'll probably launch, and so I'm sure we'll have some exciting updates for you in the next couple weeks too. So
Let's go. That's right around when I'm done with school. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure when I look at these videos that we've done now, I'll there's I'm sure there's a lot of things I'll look back and be like, wow, I was really wrong, or like I was right, or something, right? I'm sure we'll feel a certain way, but I'm glad we're documenting this process. I think this will be good for me in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see in hindsight.
Yeah, hindsight is always 2020. I might not be smiling so much in the future, right? I feel good about what we're doing, but it's always it's it and like I hesitate to say it's difficult because I don't think the difficult part has actually hit us yet. Like
Yeah.
everything right now is still sort of like, oh, like it's okay, everything's fine. And but once we actually start going and we see what can go wrong, then I think it'll be crunch time. But I think we'll figure it out.
You will. You will. All right. Thank you, Michael. We'll see you next week.
All right. Sounds good.